We start with our interview segment and take a look at journalism and media in the age of Trump. What about fake news? Does it really exist? Has journalism changed? How do we judge what is and what is not fair reporting? What's the role of local media, especially a big city newspaper? To talk about these things and more is Derek Donovan. Derek is the Kansas City Star's community engagement editor. He also sits on the Star's editorial board. Derek, good to see you again. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
What is the role of the community engagement editor?
I do a lot of different things, but the primary example I could give you is that I coordinate what goes onto the op-ed page. I choose the column lineups. I do the letters to the editor, and I also do a lot of soliciting of guest commentaries. So you notice the Star runs quite a number of guest commentaries. And so we'll, for example, have a topic such as right to work, and I will try to get people on all sides of the issue who have some professional experience or policymaking experience to share their expertise.
And unlike at many other newspapers across the country, the editorial staff at the Kansas City Star has grown, and you're doing more, right?
They're doing a lot more. That's exactly right.
Is this similar to what you used to do as reader's representative?
There are a lot of things that overlap. I have always engaged with the community, and so I think that my title being community engagement editor is sort of a continuation of that, and I am just trying to get our readers' voices into publication.
Well, what do you hear from readers? Do they like the way the Star covers President Trump and his controversies?
You know, I really feel that a lot of readers who are big Trump fans have very much divorced themselves from mainstream journalism in general. They still read it, to be honest, but they don't really engage with us the way that they used to. And that's because I think that Trump has opened up quite a rift in what it means to be conservative. And I think that there's a huge number of very conservative people who are just sort of checking out a little bit right now and not really that involved.
Well, the Kansas City Star and I think about 350 other major newspapers and smaller newspapers across the country ran editorials today. The Star's was headlined President Trump in the War on the Free Press. And let me read just a small segment from it and get you to comment about the column in general. We quote, "We all as citizens have a stake in this fight, and the battle lines seem pretty clear. If one first comes successfully for the press as an enemy of the American people, what stops someone for coming next for your friends, your family, or you?" That, of course, seems to invoke thoughts about Hitler's Germany. Is that on purpose?
Oh, very much so. And I mean, it specifically does cite, that example, Stalin. There are a lot of despots around the globe throughout history who have targeted the media as the enemy. And, that exact phrase, the enemy of the people, is one that you have seen crop up verbatim in a lot of other examples.
But hasn't Trump said fake news is the enemy of the people, not a free press?
Absolutely, but the fake news that he cites is all of these different, extremely competitive, by the way, mainstream news sources that are reaching the same conclusions.
Do you think there is such a thing as fake news that exists and that people read and hear?
Absolutely, there's a ton of fake news. As a matter of fact, Mike, you might know this, but my academic background, I used to study the UFO subculture. It's exactly the same thing that you used to see, 25 years ago at UFO conventions. There are people out there who very committedly create fake news and try to disseminate it. Absolutely.
Do you think the media generally has been fair to this president and its coverage?
I think the word fair is very much in the eye of the beholder. Donald Trump's entire public persona for the past 40 years is about cultivating an image in the media. He's a media creation. He's not a political creation, and that's part of the reason that all the old rules are off. To a certain degree, all politicians are media figures, but Donald Trump is a tabloid feature from New York City who has decided to take his profile to television and then to politics.
I know you'll know the name Howard Kurtz, a media critic now for Fox News, formerly with CNN, and before that, the Washington Post. He's written a book, and he says Trump has changed journalism, not necessarily for the better or for the worse, just has changed it. Do you agree with that assessment?
I couldn't agree more. I think that's exactly right. He's playing by a different rule book.
Do you think he has changed it for the worse?
I think that the rules have been very elastic, and it's hard to say where it's going to come out on the other side. I think you've seen a lot of news organizations who have taken very hard, deep looks at themselves to try to make sure that they are following the same ethical rules that the entire industry is built on.
I wish we had more time. This is fascinating material. Maybe you can come back in a few weeks. We can talk some more.
Anytime you like.
Pleasure to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you, Mike.
That is the Kansas City Star's Derek Donovan. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus.